Hello. Today's book is called Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon: Laurel Canyon, Covert Ops, and the Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream by David McGowan. So, what do we have here? I discovered this book at a cat sitter. I'm at a cat sit now. I sit cats in New York City, and this is one of my favorite places to cat sit. And this happened to be sitting on the bed, beside the bed, and because the person who I cat sit for is quite a reader, actually a librarian. So I decided to read it because I am interested in this sort of thing about, covert ops and dark hearts of things and, CIA, things like that. And that's basically what this is. So, I don't know. There's not a lot of covert ops in it, actually, so that is a little bit of a false subtitle. But what goes on here is he talks about he was about 10 years younger than me. This Mr. McGowan, who is now dead, he died of cancer at age 55, while I apparently live on. But he was said to be the first critic, the first skeptic of 9/11, and actually published a document, a skeptical review of what happened the following day. Not that I've read this, but that's what I've read about this guy, who I had not been aware of until I happened to find this book and read it. So he talks about how, he wished he was a little older. He wished he was my age so he could have really experienced this wonderful music scene of who the people that came out of Laurel Canyon in L.A. and, in real time instead of hearing the records later and so forth. I was the proper age, and a lot of this, a lot of Laurel Canyon stuff is really not what I was into as far as music, like Crosby, Stills and Nash. The first album was really wonderful. Everyone had it. But Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young was not my thing. There was also Buffalo Springfield. He goes through lots of bands and lots of things about hippie culture. As he looks into the scene and the background of some of these people, he finds that a lot of the rock stars had military families, high-ranking military families, and also military families who were attached to intelligence. And that is kind of interesting, and that is an interesting place to start off from, and that's how he begins the book, telling us about all these connections with all these people who became the rock stars of that era. For instance, Jim Morrison. Okay, Jim Morrison was a military kid. His dad was an admiral, and revealed in this book that I had not read about before was the fact that his dad was the commander of the ship that was the Gulf of Tonkin incident that started up the Vietnam War. This sort of, remember the Maine thing where there was supposed to be this attack at the Gulf of Tonkin on the American ship, and was there really, and was it really true? And it's come down to us to this day that it was all kind of a fake and all just an excuse to escalate the war in Vietnam. And this guy, Jim Morrison's dad, was the commander on the ship. So he was like this, Navy intelligence guy. So, and extremely high ranking. So that is, a really kind of curious thing that I have not been aware of before. He talks about the politics of some of these rock stars, like Morrison was not particularly anti-war. They weren't doing particularly anti-war things. A lot of these people were still into carrying guns and things like that. Like David Crosby was a gun guy, and he talks about a lot of the people in Laurel Canyon. One of the main players, of course, is Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa was notoriously not a drug user, and his family also was, his dad was some kind of a military contractor dude, and they worked in military bases and maybe involved with the MK Ultra mind control stuff. So that's a curious thing as well. And he goes on like that with a lot of these people. Joan Baez's father was also worked at MIT and was also involved in all this kind of stuff. Phil Oak's dad was a military guy and ended up kind of freaking out later in life. So he runs through a lot of these bands and, you know, a lot of stuff about the Doors. Vito and his Freakers. So this guy Vito, what's his name? Palekis. Vito Palekis is a character I read about before in other books, I think, about Manson. So Vito Palekis was another of these scenesters. He was a sculptor. He was early out to the scene, and he was another Laurel Canyon figure. And he had all these women around him, these young women who would dance and go to shows and do this wild freeform dancing in their kind of hippie clothes. And all this was sort of new. So this was the bands, he attached himself to certain bands, like, so he would go out and the girls would dance at the Whiskey A Go Go, and they'd dance with the, say, the Mothers playing or the Byrds, and create this sort of hippie vibe, because they were the hippie background players, basically, that made the scene instantly hippie with their presence. So it's a real hodgepodge of a book, because it goes from one thing to another. There's a lot of chapters. He talks about Zappa's controlling sort of impulses. A lot of these guys were very autocratic. They'd gone to military school. Zappa didn't, and they ended up being very controlling. And of course, they were the guys that were running the bands. Stephen Stills also was referred to as the Sarge because of his military sort of attitudes. I think he was a military kid too. They're all like military kids, but in a way that's not that odd given the time, because they were all born in, like, during World War II, around World War II, before World War II. So they were all like military kids, because the military was very big then in the 20th century. It's still big. Military is controlling everything. And so it's not odd that so many of these people had military backgrounds, and elite military backgrounds too, officers and so forth, which, of course, that's not so extreme either, because apples don't fall that far from a tree, If you're going to become something, usually it's because your parents were something too, and you have the model of being something and know that you can be something, so you set about being something. Sometimes it's different than what your parents was, but yet you're going to be something for yourself. You're not going to be a nothing, because you know that if you work hard and you work the connections with your parents, work those connections and are a good boy or a bad boy or whatever's necessary within those connections, you can succeed, and you can succeed in the world that you want to enter. Another odd thing about all these bands that were delivered to us. Now, I'm very much in favor of revisionism. I don't accept my past or what was given to me as the terrain of my past as just what it was. I want to look back into it and say, well, why was that? So, like, why were all these particular people our rock stars? Why was it Crosby, Stills, and Nash? Why was it the Byrds? Why was it Love? Why was it, whoever it was? Why was it all these particular people? And that is the questions he's asking here, however he tries to answer them or doesn't answer them. He also suggests that they got really great deals. Like, they didn't have to, and very fast, they didn't have to climb up through, indie labels and all that. They got signed before they could even play their instruments to major labels, like, to Capitol Records, Columbia Records, and all these big corporate record companies that could promote them and make people like me in Ohio know who they were. I mean, we got these wide distribution of all these people. And, why was that? Why did that happen? Of course, there was this baby boom, and it was all in the service of supplying products to this baby boom culture. And, there was this sort of tone of, we're the new thing, we're rebelling, even though a lot of the real texture of these people and a lot of what they're really about, and, gaining wealth for themselves and having a bunch of Rolls Royces and all that kind of stuff, is really kind of counter that. They're just like everybody else who's, greedy and power freaks. According to this book, I don't know any of these people. I don't know any rock stars. So, there's a chapter on John Phillips of the Mamas and Papas, that John Phillips. He's the one that wrote the song, if you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. If you're going to San Francisco, you're gonna meet some gentle people there. This by Scott. It was recorded by Scott McKenzie, but it was written by John Phillips, who was the head of created the Mamas and the Papas. John Phillips had a real thing for young women, and even started having sex with his daughters, like Mackenzie Phillips, who was the star of One Day at a Time for a while, until her cocaine habit derailed all that. She wrote a book about having sex with her father for like 10 years when she was, a grown-up, and as well as a couple of the other daughters might have had the same sort of experience with him. So he was a serious drug addict and a control freak and a child rapist and an incest guy. So that's what John Phillips is, Monday or any other day. There's a chapter about the Buffalo Springfield, and a lot of these people, as I said, I wasn't really that into that kind of a scene. In Buffalo Springfield, they're all right. Oh, he talks about the protest songs of the day, like the famous one that they trot out all the time is "For What It's Worth" by the Buffalo Springfield, written by Stephen Stills. In the text, he refers to that as a protest song, and it really isn't a protest song. He says that it's really about the LA riots, which was about a teenage riot where there were too many people in the streets or something outside the clubs. It wasn't about anti-war. It wasn't about anything like that. It was about this scene of the LA riots, with this teen riot thing that happened on Sunset Strip. That's what that song is about. Battle lines being drawn, nobody's right if everybody's wrong. And even if it's about other kinds of protests, it's mealy mouth, and it doesn't really take a stand about anything. Another big protest song of the era was Barry McGuire's eve of destruction. And, that is not particularly a protest song of anything. It's just about how, oh, we're all going to die. It's just a kind of a scared of the bomb kind of song, which, is fine for what it's worth, but it doesn't. I think it was Charlie King. It was Charlie King, the folk music. He said that songs that are really protest songs are songs that show people how to struggle, or how to gain a leg up over the oppressor, how to win, or how to struggle, how to fight, how to move forward, or why you want to move forward, or giving you the will to move forward. That's what a protest song is really about. And these commercial songs like For What It's Worth and Eve of Destruction just do not fit the bill. So what else is in here? Certain stuff about Manson and Kevin Anger, and it's just one thing after another about Hollywood and all this stuff. Terry Mulcher is in it a lot, who was the son of Doris Day, and who was a big music producer. I've talked about him and other things about Manson and so forth, the previous books when I've talked about things like this. So he refers to all these things. In the chapter about Zappa, he had an interesting take at the end. He talked about Zappa's political stuff, and how he, was protesting the censorship or labeling of albums around the Tipper Gore thing, whenever that was, I guess in the 80s. He got political around that time, but at the end he was being sent to Czechoslovakia as kind of a rep for the International Monetary Fund, and talked about how he was all pro capitalism. So that's kind of a different take on Zappa, who was never really viewed as an anti-war person, and never really wrote anti-war stuff. All this stuff is going on during the Vietnam War and things like that, and a lot of these people just did not show up for any of that stuff. Did I talk enough about Vito Palelekis? This guy Vito also ended up sexual. There was this angle with some of these people of we don't keep our sexuality secret from children, so they do things in front of them and they do things with them, and so that's what that's about. That's what he was about, and he got into trouble for it. Graham Parsons. A lot of these people, I'm the proper age, but I'm not really that much of a music fan when it really comes down to it. I mean, I'm a book fan, right? So, like Graham Parsons, I always know who Graham Parsons is, and he was supposed to be, really, really revered and so forth. Well, he was also a really rich kid, and he, I guess the only album I had that he participated in was probably Sweetheart of the Rodeo. And a lot of these people are too country. That was the problem. They all represented, a lot of it was like country rock to me, and that was just not my kind of thing at all. And that's why I was like, I was more into electric stuff like Hendrix or something like that than this sort of country stuff. And the country thing, maybe that's what the CIA connection was. The country sound to make us all sort of more conservative and back to the land and so forth, and all about family and things like that, and not look at the war and look at all the bad things that were really going on. So This book reminded me a good deal of a book called Chaos about Manson and his connection to CIA and mind control stuff. That book was maybe a little bit more convincing. This one, it's kind of the same. It's like, okay, there's a lot. It's kind of entertaining to read this kind of stuff, but how do I take it as all true? I don't take anything as all true anymore. I don't know what's true. I'm just investigating stuff. How can we know what's true these days when everyone's insane too? I'm convinced that everyone is insane. The rich people are insane. Their insanity has a particular kind of texture. The poor people are insane. Everybody in between is insane. Everybody is insane and somehow desperate for fulfilling their needs in some way, and worried that they're not going to be able to, and they're probably not going to be able to, and greedy and crazy, and it's kind of maybe getting worse. I don't know. Is it getting worse where you are? It doesn't really matter, because that's sort of the way I feel about it, and I'm kind of getting on, so I'm just looking back. This is the rehash years of my life, looking back at what I did, and I'm not that thrilled with it. I was really bad with connecting to people. I mean, for instance, it's Christmas Day, and I'm by myself. That's kind of the kind of guy I am. So, my insanity is that I got all plugged into rugged individualism somehow and thought I would be some kind of individual. I thought I would be a folk singer like Phil Oakes, and that's who I tried to be for a while. He talks about Phil Oakes in Phil's crazy time in L.A. when he was kind of going off the deep end. Phil Oakes was a singer-songwriter who I really admired, and I used to sing songs, do shows in New York and other places of his songs, because he died very young at age 35, having hung himself. There are a lot of deaths in here. A lot of people died of gunshots, and he's like, did they really, kill themselves, or was that something else? So anyway, Laurel Canyon, Covert Ops, and the Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream. It was an entertaining read. I mean, I wouldn't say don't read it. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, go ahead and read it and come to your own conclusions. And at least it can back you off with all this extreme fandom. Like, all these people are so revered and wonderful, and all. It's like, why do they pack us in? Why do they have to pack us into these shows? Like, Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young played again today. It would be in the biggest venue there is, and it would cost like $1,000 to get in. Like these Madonna shows going on now, and it's like, can't they just play for like a month in the theater where you can see them, instead of this little blip down there and on a big screen? I don't see how that is worthy entertainment. I mean, I guess you're there with the other fans and all that. I mean, I understood it with the dead scenes and everybody taking acid and having partying and stuff like that. But, everything's sort of locked down in these shows now. I don't even know if you can even vape or anything like that. So, and back in the old days, we'd go out to the outside theater. Actually, I saw one of these people. I saw Janis Joplin perform back in the day, before she was dead, of course, with the Full Tilt Boogie Band in Ohio when I was a kid. How was the show? I don't know. I was pretty drunk, but I know we finally went down to the front of the stage at the end, and so I saw Janis there doing her thing for whatever it was worth in person. And, that's this thing. It's like, I was there in person. I was there, there's people going to see Taylor Swift. I have nothing against Taylor Swift. She's good, I've listened to some of her music. It's good. whether you want to pack into a big show and spend all that money, and it's like, well, I don't know if that's worthwhile. I'd rather watch the replay instead of looking at the big screen, in my home with the sound up, So, yeah, rock music, popular culture, all this stuff that we've been given to believe in. It's like, what is it all about, and where did it come from, and what does it all mean, and why did it make us the way we are, and why am I the way I am, and did all this, was all this part of MK Ultra, and that's why I took acid when I was 18 and continued to want to be doing it, or mushrooms and stuff like that. What are the connections to all that stuff? What was it all about? Will we ever know what it was all about? When you find out what my life was all about, just let me know. Put a comment in the thing here and tell me. Oh, by the way, like and subscribe. I've been getting apparently the algorithms have discovered me a little bit, and I've been getting a lot of attention lately as far as how it has been. So I'm getting more subscribes, which is nice. If I get 1,000 subscribes, I don't know, I guess I win a golden ticket or something. So, if you want to help me get a golden ticket, like and subscribe, leave a comment if you have something nasty to say to me. I think I need a nasty comment today. After all, it's Christmas. Come on, let's be nasty. Ho, ho, ho. I'll talk to you later.